by that committee's working recommendations. They have managed the grant, and they also are doing all of our reporting to the IEPA, you know, during the grant conditions and things like that. So, yeah, they do. AECom, they're currently being used for the federal CDBG grant for Lockport Heights Sanitary District. And while that is administered through Will County, we do have to apply annually, and so they have experience in all aspects, including engineering, design, which HR Green does as well. So I think those are two good places to start and see, you know, share our ideas and grant ideas and see what they have to say. That's, I think, the purpose of the interview, is trying to, you know, see what they can advise us and lend to it and go from there. So hopefully we get the parade is done on Saturday, so hopefully we'll open up a little bit more free time too. We get kind of put a few things on the back burner for a couple of days. So
okay. We don't have anything. The event center and the parking kind of go together, so I don't have anything on that. We are currently not working on any grants. We may be looking into something in the future, but there's nothing right now. The Welter barn is going along, but we need to, it looks like the stairs on the entrance, the wooden stairs, are in pretty bad shape, so they're gonna need to be replaced.
yeah, we have not. I'm going to put that on my list of to-dos to get us. Yeah, take a look at that.
Is Stan gonna look into those steps, or?
Yeah, I'm gonna. I
Okay.
haven't. You know, I can't remember if I talked to him after our last meeting or not, but I'll follow up on it.
Okay, okay. And the rental house, I guess, we have some problems with window frames?
Yes, as far as I know, the windows are fine, but the frame trim, the trim around it is, not, you know, when we get it re-sided, oh my gosh, I don't even know how many years ago when they had it sided, the township had it aluminum or vinyl sided. They never replaced, or covered or whatever, any of the trim work. I don't even believe, I'm not sure, but I'm not sure they even did the sockets and stuff. So anyways, little by little, the wood is, you know, just spongy and rotten. I know that we have replaced, the trim around the garage door, the overhead garage door. So staff is going to start, scheduling and working on that. We really believe we can, do that in-house.
Okay. The smokehouse, the chicken house, we've got nothing going with those. We talked about the middle shed. It was sometime cleaning, go in and inventory, see what we've got in there, what's usable, what's not, that sort of thing. All the farm leases are up to date, and in force. The dog park, in fact, Pam and I talked about it this afternoon, and we're gonna look into putting some tables of some sort and some sun umbrellas out there so that they've got a little bit of shade inside the park area itself rather than just the pavilion outside. And contrary to things that have been posted on Facebook, we are not planning on closing the dog park.
That's a good one.
That is something that they're saying.
Yeah, it was put on. Now, I will say that in in going with our event, our garage sale event, which we'll be talking about, we may use the dog park as overflow parking. And that doesn't necessarily mean the dog park would be closed, but the indications online are that the dog park is going to be closed, and that's not true.
Well, whenever we've had any events out there, we've tried to keep the dog park open, and we have had used.
Yeah, the last 2 years with harvest days, you know, I told people, you know, you're welcome to use the park. You either drop the dog and your friends off, or you go up and park and walk down, and nobody seemed to have a problem. Yeah, there was one or two people that had a problem, but they had a problem with everything, so.
Or if they got there before it was filled, you know, they could
yeah.
park there, you know, but it did fill up, it's true, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's not, we were just discussing, like, some very small options. You may recall that in the past, we had reviewed, you know, trying to do like a larger shade structure, and not only was cost prohibitive, but also, you know, just logistically trying to make everything fit in there. There have been some, you know, so far it appears that the trees are hanging in there from the Boy Scout Eagle project. So we had thought, Tom and I had thought too, that perhaps we could explore, some maybe freestanding, you know, smaller things like, you know, in our park playground catalogs and stuff like that, they show, like a single pole, like almost like a little picnic table, you know, Tom had thought maybe, you know, a removable umbrella. I'm not sure how long that would last, but sometimes they have, on this one pole that, you know, is mounted in the concrete and stuff, they'll have a shade structure. Or, you know, again, looking at some very small ones, you know, that would just, even if we just did, you know, maybe some sort of a wood frame, and then, you know, did like some of the sailcloth over the top, and yes, maybe, you know, it would have to be removed before the winter and stuff, but just a little bit of, extra seating and shade structure, again, away from the gate area, which is our number one complaint, is that everybody sits too close to the gate and people can't get in and out with their dogs.
So put them in the pen area?
Oh, yeah, in the 1 acre, small and large, each one is an acre, and one side is small and one's
Okay,
for
good.
large
So I
dogs.
know that in the past you've chained down the tables.
We do have to change stuff down
And
at the
that
parks and stuff.
umbrella, I would think would be very tempting to take and easy to
You
get.
know, hadn't even thought about, I was just thinking about storms. I mean, it's very much out in the open there, and so
I would
wind
say-
and,
Yeah, I would say a structure, a simple structure, you don't have to have cloth, but you could put some lattice work,
yeah.
and then
Well,
you get some shade.
The trouble with the structure is, we looked into that, you know, even a simple structure, I can build a house for less money. Once county gets involved, everything has to be on concrete and.
Well, and
you
let
know,
us not, not only the permit, but let us not forget, the government is required to do prevailing wage on new builds.
Right.
So that runs the that's what happened the last time, just runs the price up. But I think, and I do know what you're talking about, like with lattice work or pergolas and stuff, but because it is so out in the open and, you know, the sun is so hot, so direct overhead, I think that they would need something that doesn't allow the sunlight to come in. And I know one of the issues that, is a problem is, and maybe this might even be with the picnic tables, is that, people don't understand that the reason that these, like the pavilion and things, not only here, but at other dog parks, are placed outside of the fenced-in area is because the worst thing you can do in a dog park is picnic and bring in food, you know, so when they see picnic tables, and plus the public, you know, that gives the public access to the pavilion as well. Not everybody wants to be inside the dog park, you know, but if you're eating, that is the worst possible thing to do inside a dog park, is, you know, bringing food. Is their animals, and they compete, you know, so, but, Tom had mentioned that, you know, maybe we can look into, some options again, and, you know, things change, you know, the catalogs are constantly evolving with new ideas and things, so.
Okay. And that brings us, I guess, to our fundraising, which is gonna be most of our discussion. Margaret brought some stuff up.
I think we need to get publicity out on this right away, and there's two public places, well, three. One, of course, is Facebook, one is the Township website, one is, the calendar for the Home of Horizon. And just recently, as I was on my computer today, I got something from Patch. And it seems that they are encouraging more neighborhood information. And, it says, new classifieds on Patch, and one of them is announcement about what's happening in town. Click here to see your neighbors are posting. As always, it's free to post in your home community, and for extra reach, you can provide your post and share it nearby for $1 a day per community. So that's another thing. Plus the sign that we have to design, and I think that has to be done quickly. It could be very simple. I'm willing to put out the money for the sign, and hopefully that it won't be too expensive. Now I've changed some things that we agreed to last time. Junk in your trunk, and Josh's idea to put your in there, and he didn't say your, he said yours, so I went, where? And, so there's the date, August 24th, and we changed it, if you see the red on the first page, proceeds from the event we placed in the open space fund, if that is correct. And I wanted to ensure that people knew the open space property was open to the public. So, on the last paragraph on the first page, you'll see in red a $sign. And when I was talking to Tom today, he said $20, I thought it was 30. I know the craft show at, the VFW started out at 30, then they increased it to 40 the second time they did it. So I'm recommending 30. And of course, we said that, $1 to come in, and, for the public, and that we didn't say anything about children, so if you wanted to add a certain age to that. Now, if you look at the second paragraph, there's the application, and on there is please describe what you're willing to sell. And then when we get an application in, right away we will put the date that's received, and the confirmation is when we send it, I should say, and the number of spaces they want. At the top of the third page in red, it says release and indemnification. I would like the wording to be adjusted for this, and it's very important, that we use for Homer's Harvest Days. So that's something, that would have to be done. And
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the release, and I'm not sure where, oh, you're on the next page,
on third
okay.
page, right, and I didn't put it in there, or maybe I should have.
We have a standard, that is used for the parade, used for everything that, the attorneys have prepared,
Okay.
so that can be added.
Okay, all right. And so then I put my name down because if there are any calls, at the township, they can always refer that to me, and my name is on there also. Then the rules and guidelines, again, you'll see on this page, second to the last page, 15 by 20 is what we agreed on, and I'm still recommending 30, but we have to decide on that, because I think I don't know what we voted on last time.
I don't know that we voted, I know we tossed, my notes show we tossed around a lot
We
of
talked
ideas,
around.
but I'm not sure we were, I think even with the admission, we weren't sure, it was all new.
Right.
Okay, so if we wanted to decide now, I mean, I think that $10 for a vendor is gonna make a
Yeah, I think the thing, you know, my own opinion is that, I mean, and you do say that, I mean, when I was looking through it, it does say, bring your own tables to set up or add more
Yeah.
space to your place.
Right.
I would think that 30 might not be as reasonable if it was just limiting it to the space in the trunk of your car. But since, you know, you would be able to put stuff, outside of that, I think it makes it a little bit more reasonable.
So you're saying 30?
I'd be okay with 30.
Okay, all right, so do we need a vote, Tom? Do you wanna do a vote?
If we go 30, do we wanna waive the $1 admission fee? Or do we
No.
wanna keep that?
No. Well, we wanna keep it.
Okay.
We made a mistake, well, as some people said was a mistake, some people said no, that for home and harvest days, we should have some kind of an entrance. And when you go free first and then you charge, people don't like it. If you charge it first, they expect, I mean, $1 isn't that much.
Okay.
So then,
Oh, it'd be $100 if you had 100 people. That's not really that much.
so confirmation, if you look at that, under rules and guidelines, fee must be sent with application. We can't have an application without a fee, so it isn't gonna be counted as received. Right, and then, if you look down under setup time, 8 o'clock, is 8 to 10, and be ready by 10 enough time, or do you wanna make it 7:30?
Can I go back to, confirmation and see if I can make a recommendation? So, it does say here, fee must be sent with application.
Right.
And it says confirmations will be sent to verify acceptance and receipt of fee. Definitely, we won't be accepting any applications without the fee.
That's what it means.
Okay.
So maybe we should reaffirm that and say no application to accept.
I mean, the verbiage can be worked, the language can be worked on. I just wanna make sure, too, because as the stuff gets sent in the mail, you know, there are many times with events that we found that people, will send in an application and then, you know, not the other required, whatever it is, if it's insurance or whatever it was. And then we're now at the end scrambling, trying to, you know, cause they send in an application, we don't wanna, you know, refuse them, but there's
Okay.
still
I
outstanding
put
stuff.
under here, under in that confirmation, no applications will be accepted without a fee.
Yeah, I like that better.
Without what?
I like that better, yeah.
Okay. Well, I just think that, all of it should be put in there, you
Yeah.
know.
Just all at once instead of
Okay.
trying to scramble and call people up and
No,
they
I
don't
wanna
answer
do
their
that. I wanna make
emails
it
and, yeah.
simple as possible. Setup time, and I
Okay.
have 8 AM,
Let's, Margaret,
what?
let's go back. You said spaces will be assigned upon arrival. Are we gonna have numbered spaces? You send in an application, we will give you a space. Okay, I don't wanna, I'm just asking, you know, we have 20 people show up at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. In fact, 7 is most likely better, but, I don't wanna, you know, come up, if we have assigned spaces, I don't want 4 people over, I want that space.
No, they'll be assigned and they're gonna get a card.
Okay,
And
okay,
that card, they're going to have to put in an obvious place. On their windshield, stand it up, whatever, but it's gonna have their name on it and it's going to have their number.
okay,
And they go and find that number.
all right.
Like a vendor number, you mean?
Yeah, and their number.
So basically, I guess we're anticipating that we will, you know, maybe even the day before, that we will have the spaces drawn out
Yes.
and numbered and ready to go.
Like we have done. Okay, I wanna rewrite this then under identification, instead of saying you would do an identification card, I'm saying you would do a, vendor number. And, there's 2 kinds of vendors, and last time Tom had said that he wanted to add crafts, he didn't care. The craft people, don't work out of their car. And so they will have to be under the trees, they will not be able to bring their car up there. And, because you can't park under the canopy, although there's not a lot of trees anymore,
There's no reason you can't park under a tree. I mean, you're not gonna kill it over 8 hours of being parked under it. It's not like we're parking Model Ts that leak
Well-
oil and gas and antifreeze.
All right, then I will be careful where I place them. So,
Well,
but-
I guess, maybe I misunderstood what we were I thought we weren't necessarily trying to get, specific, like, arts and craft vendors. I thought we were saying we weren't going to limit the sales to just used items.
Yeah, I'm not, if you look at this, I'm not pushing, crafts. But it does say under what items can be sold, so that says items for, ideas for items that can be sold. I did add crafts. Handmade items is what was on it, and I put.
Well, I guess that was one of my questions, is the last time, it seemed like you were sort of saying we didn't want crafts. I don't care whether we do or not, I just need it so that if somebody comes up with crafts, do we say yes or no?
Well, I had thought about crafts, but you brought that up, and I thought, okay, why not? Somebody wants to be part of this, it depends on, some of them don't wanna be part of something that's like a flea market.
Yeah, well, if we get enough craft people, we could always give them their own aisle or something, or.
So crafts, the thought isn't on selling out of their trunk or selling off tables?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So would we wanna just ask her, you sell out of your car, you just sell off a table and just have designated areas?
Well,
Is that what
I
we-
think we treat them the same.
Yeah, me personally, I would hate to start a whole nother location and a whole nother, having to screen people when they're sending applications and figure out what they're doing. I say it is what it is, and they can sell, as you outlined, they can sell whatever they wanna sell in that allotted space, or if they need 2 spaces, then they can rent 2 spaces, or whatever. I would prefer not to have a lot, I mean, especially since this is number one, our first time doing it, see how it goes, kind of a thing, see what the response is, but I just really would prefer not to make it too, involved with trying to lay out a bunch of different areas and, going back and
Okay,
forth.
so they get the same, they get the same space, that we haven't adjusted it on here,
Mhm.
and they can pull their car up, so that's it.
They can
They're
pull
the
their
same.
car up, or again, like the others, if they wanna have a table, or if they want additional space. I do agree, I think you had stated that, generally crafters are geared towards certain events, and, resale events are attracts a certain level of people with, their goals in mind, what they, the audience they intend to reach and what they intend to do. I don't know, but I don't anticipate, stained glass crafters, wanting to come to junk in your trunk, but.
Well, right, okay, put your setup time. So under identification, you will be given a vendor number, so I've changed that if you wanna correct that on your paper. Setup time will be from, you want it 8 or you want it 7?
I think 2 hours is plenty.
Yeah, I'm thinking, agree with Josh, I'm thinking if we have everything set up and we're not spray painting numbers at 7 o'clock in the morning, or whatever, on the ground, or whatever, however method we're choosing to identify the space, I'm assuming that's gonna be the way to go, is to use like lawn paint, and, then they just have to look for their number, in that designated space.
We'll map it out.
Yeah, I'm thinking, this is being designed to be less volunteer and labor intensive from, any of our previous events. They have to bring it in, and they have to bring it out. 2 hours seems adequate to me
They
too.
have, well, if they place things in their trunk correctly, and you know what they're going to do, not fiddling the day of it. But, we're not gonna be helping them as we did before, so we don't need those kind of, we don't need the number of volunteers. We just need to make sure people are getting in the right space and they get assigned, so.
Right, and like with our vendors at other events, they had to unload and go park somewhere else with their vehicles, so hopefully this will be eliminated. Mhm.
Okay.
That they will pull
So we
in
keep it, you
and
wanna,
do it.
wanna vote on this, or what, 8?
8 is fine,
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
All
see
people are gonna get there at 7 or 6, I mean, you're gonna get people that are to show up at all times up until 9:30, or you're gonna get guys that will show up at 5 to 10, so, it's, at least that's been my experience with this stuff like this in the past, so.
But you'll be there at 5.
No.
Okay, items for sale, everything that we had before is there. If you wanna add some other category, you let us know. I did add crafts.
Should we say no food products?
I do
Do we?
later, I do somewhere. If you wanna make it
Okay. So the,
more
hold on
emphatic,
one
we
sec-
could put it right on
second.
there.
So, hold it, but before we go off of setup and take down, I'm sorry, I forgot what the time of the event was, so it was from 10 until 1?
No, 4.
4, okay, I'm sorry, okay, I see it there now. So, do we want to, I know many times we've had to, set, a rule that they can't just come and go throughout the day, and if they've got trailers, and if they've got stuff, are we going to sit, like, what if they say they've been there for 3 hours and they've had enough and they wanna go, are we gonna allow them to just be able to come in and out, wherever, or? I know a lot of events say you have to be there till the end, or, you know, whatever, to
Okay.
avoid
Under,
that.
well, under setup equipment, we could put it under there, or hours of operation, let's do hours of operation, we could come up here under before identification, put hours of operation. 10 to 4, all vendors must stay entire time. Is that okay, or you wanna say something else?
Oh, that sounds okay, I mean, you know, or you could, you know, say something under breakdown time or whatever, too,
Okay.
that,
Well,
you know, they
okay.
can start breaking down. I wanna say the chamber, for their expo, I thought they used to say something like, I just can't remember exactly what it was, but something like, you cannot start to take down before, you know, an hour before closing or something
Okay,
like that.
if then let's say, take down, breakdown, take down,
No sooner.
starts at 4 p.m. and not before.
Okay.
Okay,
Do we think that's a lot of time from 10 in the morning until 4 or not? I mean, that's my only thought right now.
some of these sales are 3 hours or 4 hours, I think
Right.
that's a lot of to do for such a short time. Do
Yeah, I
you
mean,
wanna-
my only concern is if we're putting in this rule and, you know, is it too long? Is it too long? Other than that?
Well.
From 4, you know, staying on until 4.
Wonderful. I don't talk about it, see what you say.
Well, so the other thing is, no one can break down before 2 o'clock or something.
Yeah, that might even work if they wanna leave it to, I mean,
No, once
obviously.
it starts, the caravan moves.
Well,
Everything goes.
unfortunately, one person starts to leave.
It is awful.
You don't want people driving when you
That's the fear, is
Pedestrians.
that people are walking around, children
It
are
is.
walking around, and people are
Right.
driving trailers and
Well,
cars
It-
in and out of the site.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and,
Agreed.
what are they called? The emergency group that would come to Harbor Space, no one gets in after a certain time, no one can come in with their vehicle.
Not with, you know, with pedestrians,
So-
no.
I don't know, you think 4 o'clock is too long?
I don't know, I just kinda do, although, you know, it's been a few years for me, but, you know, as an old garage sailor,
Well,
you know,
if
had
it's-
garage sailing for years
If
and
it's
years and years.
4, then
There's
they're
that
not-
lull, you know, right before dinner time and stuff, and, it just seemed like by the end of the day, that's my only experience with that kind of
If it's 4, then
thing,
it's 5 by the time we leave.
you know.
So, let's make it 3?
I think
I agree
that's
with that.
better.
Huh?
I
I
do
agree
think
with that.
3 is better,
And
I
the
do.
3?
I think 4 is a
Okay,
little too
correct
long.
your, places then, places, 10 to 3. Oh, I didn't put 10 to 10 any, oh
You
yes,
start
I did,
closing.
I had 10 to 4, okay, so now it's 10 to 3. on the publicity. Okay, items that cannot be sold. Well, okay, so we've said all vendors under identification must stay until,
the end of the event.
stay until end of event. Okay, and then going to breakdown time, if what was added is, takedown starts at 4 p.m. and not before. So I think we've.
So that's now 3.
No, 3.
3. Okay. Under items for sale that can be sold, I told you that I did put crafts in, and then we've added no food products. Oh, no food products really should go under items not allowed to be sold. So town had added to this, no firearms, ammunition, explosive, or fireworks to the washer, dryers, refrigerators, water heaters, etc.
Okay, so I guess I'm not seeing the food items anywhere, but you're saying that that should go under items not to be sold?
Which one?
No food items?
No food products, right.
No food
Oh,
products.
that's it.
Okay, so I'm a little confused about the word food. So if I had produce, I couldn't sell it, or?
Oh, yes, there would be produce, or we wouldn't.
Well, I was,
If
yeah,
we have
well,
food trucks there, how does, you'd have to differentiate.
Well, if they're
Approved
selling
food
their
vendors.
corn, I don't know if corn's ready, their produce,
Well-
watermelon, zucchini.
yeah, I was thinking food, hamburgers, hot dogs, whatever, what you would consider food. But yeah, if you had farm goods,
Or what if
That-
you had, somebody makes candy, or, you know what I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, but you
Oh,
know what
that's
I'm
right.
saying. So I think, like Josh, I think you had alluded to, only, designated food, concession vendors, or food vendors,
And just-
concession vendors.
On their application, have them spell out what they're wanting to sell and it needs approval.
Okay, then under items that can be sold, we can say, farm goods. Farm goods,
Produce.
farm products, what do you
Produce.
put that?
I know that when, we've had other selling events, the Will County Health Department, which we always have to, get permits and stuff for, and would, need to do this for any concession and stuff as well. They, I cannot remember if they had any limitations on, farm products or produce or whatever, or not. I do know that if it's eating, food there, unless it's like prepackaged and stuff, they have to come out and inspect. So that's kind of the problem with food products. But we can find out the specifics about
Well,
that,
they
it's
sell,
just,
right, they have their own farm stand, like M&D has their own farm stand. I mean, they do sell produce. If they wanted to sell there, they already have a health permit. But they just have to report where they're going to sell.
I don't think that's exactly accurate. I don't think that your permit goes wherever you go. I think you have to have a permit for wherever you go. I think it's kind of the reverse.
It goes for the food truck. Like if you're a food vendor.
Oh, yeah, well, the food truck, that one I know about, because we've just done a huge exploration, the soccer club wanted to do it, and I did a lot of research for them. So the way it goes is the food truck first of all, they have to be licensed, and they have to have a permit on the truck, which goes wherever they go. They are able to go in Will County, they are able to go to any locations that are zoned for a food truck, which is predominantly industrial zones. If it is not an industrial zone, they have very specific zones that they allow in Will County, then you have to apply for a temporary or special use permit. But regardless, yes, the food trucks are easier to do because they're already licensed versus like when we had local businesses, under the tent, like at Harvest Days and stuff. they require, you know, inspections right there at the scene, and everything has to be on a paved surface, so the food trucks eliminate that. But the produce and, food selling stuff is a whole nother, aside from the food trucks, is a whole nother category. Because I do remember we had a particular vendor that wanted to bring produce and asked us like a day or two before the event began, and when we checked at the county, I want to say that they were not supposed to be bringing the stuff without.
Okay, what do you wanna say there?
Well, I would have to know what the rules are to know what to say. I don't honestly know. I can tell you about food trucks, that's all I
Okay,
know.
well, they can always check on their own if they wanna sell produce, but, we're talking, I think what we are talking about too, is that we don't want another commercial vendor selling food, that's not the point.
Right.
We select who is going to be the food
No.
truck business.
Not really, my point was I don't want somebody in there selling beef jerky or canned
Right.
goods that they canned, that sort of thing.
Stuff that might not be
Okay.
safe.
That's my concern, is
So
the
what do you
safety
wanna
is,
say?
I don't know, that's the reason I
I don't know
said.
how that's
That's the
regulated.
reason when I said food products, I was thinking of food you would eat immediately.
Well, I mean,
versus-
he was like on fireworks and dangerous things, so I was thinking the same thing that you were thinking, that you wanted to make sure.
Well, I
Well, I
wanted,
can tell you, like at the schools and at other places, restaurants and stuff, you cannot bring in homemade stuff.
I guess that was gonna be
unfortunately.
my thing, was that we talked about a bake sale, but I don't wanna see Mrs. What's her name set up with 14 cakes and 13 loaves of bread, and then somebody gets sick. Or, you know, it's a hot day and people are sweating all over it and flies are flying around.
Oh, I have the scripted, what, you just wanna say no food products?
Well, I think if we have food trucks or whatever, they just have to be approved on what.
Well, a food.
Well, yeah, the food trucks we can handle internally,
Right.
because I think basically, if I understand from our last discussions, we are going, well, for example, like the Forest Preserve does food trucks Friday now, and we're, please pass this to Margaret if she hadn't already seen it, I just thought that was a good resource for you, but, so they make sure that they get the permitting and that the licenses and stuff are up to snuff. You know, we have to do the same thing with our concessions have to be inspected, and we have a license, we have to, it's a little different, cause we're actually cooking food in there than the food truck. So we're internally, the township office administration, we're pretty good about, the insurance, all the things that is required when we hire somebody, we've got that pretty well down pat, but I would say that they would probably, need, maybe, I'd have to look at it, but maybe a different application or something, cause we would have to include in there that they would have to, have insurance and blah, 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 blah.
Okay, what do you want to put?
I think if we're engaging, vendors, we have to have a separate type of application, which is not a big deal, we just would have to gear something that we already have towards the event, you know, with the language that we already use. So, like you say, maybe the old Homer Harvest Days ones or whatever, they will actually have, you know, the insurance requirements, the Will County Health, whatever
We're
needs to
talking
be
about
done.
our food trucks.
Right, I'm only talking about food trucks right now.
Okay, well, do we just
that would
wanna
be
say,
separate.
do we just wanna say under, items not
Or-
to be sold, no food?
Concessionaire.
But it takes care of beef jerky and flies.
Well, I definitely think
Well,
we probably have to watch homemade food.
well, that's the thing, I mean, when I used to do the sportsman shows, there used to be a guy that showed up with a freezer on his trailer, and he'd bring in salami and ham, and he'd slice it up and, you know, put it out on the table, and he'd sell it, and one day, you know, the health department in Kankakee came in and said, "You can't do that."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, I've been doing it for 15 years. They said, "No, you can't do it." And I mean, he was in violation of you know, the rules.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, you know, if somebody comes in, like I say, it's one thing for a bake sale, but if somebody comes in selling pies and cakes and canned goods and that sort of thing, I just don't like it.
What's required of farmer's market to do the same requirements?
Well, I honestly don't know, at this time, it's been many, many years since we contemplated a farmer's market, I don't know the answer. I want to say that we did have an issue once before, with being able to, in a short notice, get somebody to be able to legally sell produce.
I also remember there was a fellow on Parker Road, who can sell, he has a license to sell food, he produces his own food. If he were to come to Homer Harvest Days, he would not be able to cut into his produce. So, that's how the health department, controls the health issue. Once that fruit is opened, can become contaminated.
Yeah,
But you're talking about a muskmelon, a hard, watermelon, things like that, so.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I don't remember the particulars, I just know that there was an issue with a certain party, with one of our events where they wanted to bring in, I think, corn or different things that they grew off of their farm. I don't know what all the particulars were, perhaps it was that they had to have some sort of, inspection of their crops, but I honestly don't know.
If it happens, that there's a vendor and he can sell commercially and so forth like that, then I think we take it up. But right now, if we just say no food products, we're really concentrating on junk in the trunk. The sales of
Right.
items.
So if you have a category, any food sales have to be approved,
Or maybe
and that gives you a
you,
chance to investigate.
maybe you don't even, I mean, I know we're trying to be specific, but perhaps we just have kind of like a blanket statement that says, I don't have it in front of me now, but we use these blanket statements all along for things, that, everything has to be in compliance with local laws, ordinances, local and state, regulatory or whatever. So then, if the food is not, it would have to be licensed, or it would have to pass some sort of inspection or whatever, like Josh said, we would have to know on their application, that they intended to do that and make sure.
I'd like to know your wording then.
There's so many, blanket statements, just must comply with, local and state and ordinances.
Food? So then
Vendors or
All
products
vendors.
must be in compliance with. So for example, I'm looking at, items not allowed to be sold. I mean, it's kind of like a double negative, same thing, ideas for items that can be sold. In one of those, depending on how you wanna do it, they cannot or they can. They can be sold, if they can meet regulatory and local ordinance and laws or whatever, or the reverse. Cannot be sold if they're not in compliance with, local regulatory.
We can, well, your thing says, what are you gonna sell? If somebody says they wanna sell food, we'll worry about that. I don't know that anybody's gonna come selling food, it's just something I wanted to be aware of.
Beef jerky is popular with you.
Well, as long as it's prepackaged, it's legal.
Okay, so let's have the wording then under items not allowed. We won't even mention food. Cause once you mention food, it's encouraged. Kind of violently.
Well, I guess I would say,
All items?
it says, items not allowed to be sold. I guess I would say, items that cannot meet licensing, regulatory, what's the word? Not licensing, regulatory, or health department regulations.
Okay, let's have it now.
So under items not allowed to be sold, what you have here, no firearms, whatever, and then items that cannot meet licensing, regulatory, or health department, well, for regulatory and regulations, laws, get rid of regulations and put laws. Guidelines,
Laws works, I guess.
okay. That way, I think the licensing, I know we've had issues before with, sports stuff that isn't licensed to be sold, knockoff bags and different things that, so the licensing should cover that, and
Okay, say it again now, please, so we get it on.
items that cannot meet licensing, regulatory, or health department laws, or cannot comply with, or I don't know, you're the,
Instead of saying not, just say,
Yeah.
all vendors must comply with all licensings, regulations, rules.
sounds good to me.
Just
See, that's,
comply with
that
it.
double negative in items not to be sold,
Yeah.
that makes
You
it
wanna
hard to
put
write it.
Okay, you wanna put it under ones that can be sold? That
Yes.
items must meet licensing,
Mm-hmm.
that makes it better, right?
Yeah, sounds good to me. Items must meet.
Licensing,
Comply.
regulations, or health.
Licensing, yep. And we're gonna add, I'm gonna line that, that's
How
control.
about items must comply with,
Okay, must comply with,
comply with, the
comply,
regulatory or health department laws? Is that it?
regulatory, licensing, regulatory, and health department laws. Works for me.
Health regulations. Just say health regulations, right?
Well,
Cause you have different levels of health regulations, don't you? I don't know.
well, there is, I guess what I'm trying to include in there with regulatory would be, it could say that, local ordinances or whatever, because the health department is one, licensing is another, and then towns and counties and whatever have, their own laws and regulations too, or state, or, whatever, and that's what I was trying to encompass with the word regulatory, but I'm not hooked, I'm not a wordsmith, so I'm not hooked on this.
Well, I
It's
think.
always open for better
Do you have
edits.
a better thing? Well, okay, we've got, this is going to go now under items that can be sold.
Yep.
Items must comply with regulatory or health department laws.
Licensing,
It must
regulatory.
comply with licensing, regulatory, or health department laws. That's it? Okay. Well, we're done. If we mention food,
Oh,
all of
yeah,
a
you could just
sudden
leave it at
somebody gets an
department, take the
idea.
word laws out, and it could be and or.
Okay, then prohibited items and activities, which is a broader category. No pets, no dogs, alcoholic beverages, suggestive or obscene material, music or public address, selling or promoting items, outside of exhibits, sublet airspace, subletting space to third parties, unauthorized distribution or sale of food items or sales on areas not assigned. Okay, so we do mention food there, but unauthorized, so there, that's a category, it has to be authorized even beyond us. Okay, is it clear there in setup of equipment that the township will not be renting.
Oh,
Right.
set up equipment, tables, chairs, exhibit equipment cannot be rented from Homer Township, all vendors are expected to bring or rent, yeah,
Okay.
not be provided, yeah.
Then
I would just say cannot be provided by Homer Township
cannot be provided,
in the first sentence.
okay, provided. Yeah, because it goes beyond renting then. Okay, cannot be provided, by, let's get it from, by Homer Township, all vendors are expected to bring or rent their own equipment. I'll put equipment, add equipment. Okay, food and beverages, and I put in quotes, non-alcoholic, will be available for sale. That's an added item. And safety and security again, if you feel that that's complete.
Okay, so food and beverage, I guess it's confusing me, cause at first I thought, after we just had this whole long discussion about food and beverages, so you said will be available for sale.
Well, okay, you wanna say a little differently then? Will be provided by food
Food
truck.
and beverage vendors,
We just call them food trucks.
if we're definitely sure that that's what it's gonna be,
Yeah,
food
okay.
trucks. Food and beverage, food trucks or vendors will, offer goods for,
I don't wanna say
Purchase.
vendors, cause it looks like it's, you know, just say food and truck, non-alcoholic.
Food trucks will be available.
Huh?
Food trucks will be available.
Okay. There could be one.
Well, yeah, it will most likely only be one, it's just,
Well, we could
food
put.
truck is an unhandy term versus truck.
Well, how about if we just put S in parentheses, so it could be one or no? Okay, safety and security. It's a simplified version of what's on the application that's going to be added. Then Tom and I talked about cancellations, the last day for cancellations, we thought should be July 31st. They can cancel after, but they will not, their fee will not be returned. Now, is that something we wanna do or not? It pops up a space, allows a space, for somebody else. The last day for cancellation is July 31st for the fee to be returned.
okay, so the event is the 24th, and,
August.
I would just leave the word cancellation, and I would say, I don't know if July 31st is
Too
a
soon.
little too soon, but I would say, any cancellations after, I'm just gonna pick a date, August 5th, will result in a non-refundable, deposit or something like that.
Well, okay, give me the whole sentence. I have any cancellations after August 5th.
Probably putting this all together, Ron, you probably say,
Well-
go ahead.
Applications have to be received by August 12th. So basically, anybody that applies after that will cancel. Versus.
Do we have it, yeah, okay,
So
so
just
you've
say
already
any-
given your deadline.
I would just say anything after August 12th, you can't cancel. So if the application period's still open, you can cancel.
Yeah,
After the application period closes,
Okay,
it just simplifies it, right?
all right, it does, it makes sense. Any cancellations after August 12th,
Are non-refundable.
are
Not
non-refundable, we
refundable.
have to state that we're not going to be refunding.
okay. Any applications after August 12th are not refundable. Okay. Donation from vendors. Do you like the way it's worded? Want to word it different? We're appreciating.
You want a rusted grill from a '57 Chevy?
Yeah.
You may have a pile
How long
of
you
junk
want
to take
that
home.
part. Don't give me yours. We don't want any of that.
I know that, at the vendor fairs and stuff, they ask vendors for donations, but I'm just, a guy's gonna come out and say, I'm gonna donate that old oil stove, or I'm gonna.
Yeah, the thing I don't wanna take home, I'll donate that to you.
Exactly, I don't wanna take it home, so I'm gonna bet, so I think
Oh,
maybe.
you could do some garden art out of an oil stove.
He's gonna donate his beef jerky.
No, that's him,
I know.
he's donating.
I think that maybe we should just leave that out.
Right, but don't we wanna have
I
a
like
little?
the idea of having like a little drawing or, something like that, but I kind of tend to go with Tom. I know when we had crafters at other events, we've done that, but they were usually representative of the items that they
So
crafted.
it could be an old sink.
Could be an old shoe.
Okay, you wanna take it out? Wanna take it out?
I would say to take it out,
Alright, we'll take it out, we never know we're gonna get.
I
Well,
do like the idea or where you were heading with that. It's just, I agree with Tom as well.
Okay, well, we took it out. So,
Collection
Okay.
jar, or what's the thought on that? What's a
What?
collection jar?
what's a collection jar?
Yeah,
Well, we
collection
wanna
jars for
put-
individual
Okay, they
vendors.
wanna have their own individual raffle.
Oh, gotcha.
So I could say raffle jars or raffle and collection jars.
I wouldn't even, do we wanna even bring that up?
Well, I wanna see they're taking their money and, they might be selling things for a certain organization. Now, so they're doing it not for their own benefit, but they're doing it to help an organization. Do we allow them to have a jar to collect for them? Or allow them to have a raffle? What do you think? It has been covered at other events that we've been involved in. You're working for the green effort of,
Right, like National Wild Turkey Federation, or Ducks
Yeah,
Unlimited.
right.
TLC.
TLC.
Okay, TLC, you want, TLC sets up, they could set up,
Well, I was just thinking, like, I know people that have car washes and the proceeds go to TLC, so it wouldn't probably be unusual if somebody wants selling
Okay.
goods and the proceeds are gonna go to TLC or whatever, but I think if I understand your statement here, you don't want them to do like individual raffles or ticket sales for a drawing or something like that. Well, to be fair, the state of Illinois does require that you're supposed to have a license to do any of these raffles or any of this stuff, so
It'd be covered under.
it would be covered under regulatory stuff. You're not supposed to just have any kind of, selling tickets to things and, all that without a license from the state.
okay, well, what do you wanna do with it? Cross it
So
out?
we say any raffles or ticket sales have to be approved and proof of licensing is required?
Are we anticipating for sure that this is gonna happen? Cause this is saying that it's not allowed.
Well, I put it in there because we have to decide what to do.
Right,
I can understand if somebody is selling, their items and they're going to benefit TLC, wonderful cause.
Absolutely.
right, which is different, and that would be fine, they do
So that
whatever
would
they
be
want
okay,
with the
right?
proceeds, I don't care what they do. Yeah, I mean,
Okay, how about if we
I would
include
say take it
not-
out.
I would say, okay, let's talk about not-for-profit. They could have a thing there, not-for-profit, they have, everything is gonna be donated.
You could say not-for-profit raffles are approved or allowed.
Okay,
I personally would